Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Ksuvas daf Kuf Vav. We are going to begin on Kuf Vav Amud Aleph by the two dots at the top. Rav Anan Havi Ragel Eliyahu de Asti Gabe. So Rav Anan, he used to have Eliyahu come to him. De Havi Mastele Seder Deliyahu. He used to learn Seder Eliyahu. Rashi says Seder Eliyahu Rabba Shalamad Chutz Lateva, Seder Eliyahu Zuta Shalamad B'Toicha Teva Skivan Avad Hachi Itztalik. So once he started doing this, once he started learning, he stopped coming. Yosef B'Tainisa, so he sat in the fast. Ubarachmi V'Osa, then Eliyahu came. Kiyosa Havi Mivayis Le Bi'use. So when he came, he was scared. He scared him. The Ovid Tivusa, and he made this type of box. The Yosef Kameh, and he sat in front of him Adi Apikle Sidre until he basically finished his learning. Behind the Amri, Seder Eliyahu Rabba, Seder Eliyahu Zuta. This is again Seder Eliyahu Rabba, Seder Eliyahu Zuta, says Rashi. Seder Eliyahu Rabba Shalom and Chutz L'Teva. It's really he learned outside of the box. Seder Eliyahu Zuta Shalom and L'Teicha Teva. So again, that's why it's called Seder Eliyahu Zuta when it was inside the box. Bishnei the Rav Yosef, in the years of Rav Yosef Havi Rischa, there was anger from Hashem. Amri le Rabban Rav Yosef. So they said to Rav Yosef, "Boy Marachmi, ask mercy so that Hashem will perhaps change." So Amri lahu Hashna now. Ma Elisha dechi Havi Rabbanan Mifterei Mikamei. That when by Elisha, when the Rabbanan parted away, Havi Paishi Trey Alfin Umasan Rabbanan be done. There was left over 2,200 Rabbanan. So Be'idan Rischa Loi Havi Boy Rachmi. At the time of anger, they didn't ask for mercy. So Anai Boy Rachmi. So we should ask for mercy, says Rashi. Havi Rischa Kashel Makoi Muva Ravu Oilam. There was a famine. So he said it's not something which I think this is not appropriate. So Mamai Defaishi Hachi. So the question is, when it comes to leftovers, those as eaters at a table, what can I give in front of these 100 people? So Ilema the Kuhulifne Meish. So Bishnei Batsaris Tuvahavi. So in the time of famine, Batuvahavi. There's a lot of bread. Ella the whole Chad V'Chad Kamei Meish. Each bread was before 100 people. Not that there was all this bread. That doesn't make sense in the time of a famine. Rather, it means that there was only one loaf per 100 people. Ki havi mitri rabbanan mebei rav havi paishi alpa masan rabbanan. There was left over 1,200 mebei Rav Huna havi paishi tamni mei rabbanan. There was 800 left. Rav Huna havi darsh batlei asamuroi. So he used to darsh in front of these 12 Treyas or 13 Amoroyim, says Rashi, Hashaimin Mepiv. These are people who are announcers. Umashmiim Urabim, they let people know, Zemikan v'Zemikan, Umifnim Lacharin. They used to be able to basically project their voices, almost like a Matorgaman. Kihavi Kami Rabbanan Mim Sifta. So when the Rabban were by the Sifta, the Rav Huna, Benavtse Galimaihu, and they would shake out their garments, Havisolik Avka, dirt would come off, Vikastele Loyima, and it would block the light of the day. Says Rashi, Mi'apil Esachama V'Hoya Nikr B'Eretz Yisrael. The Abim Rabba, they would say in the Rabbanon over there would say, Kamule Memasifta Rav Huna Bavla. It must be that they are leaving the Masifta of Rav Huna from Bavel. Ki mifderi Rabbanim be Rabba, when the Rabban would leave Rabba, Rav Yosef, Habi Paishi Arba Mei Rabbanon. They used to have left over 400 Rabbanon. V'karol nefshayu Yasmi, and they used to be called like the orphan ones. Ki havi mifter rabban mebei Abaye, v'yerma mebei Rapapa, v'yerma mebei Ravashi, having paishi masan rabban. There's 200 left over. V'karin of Shahu Yasmi, the orphans of the orphans. Omer Rav Yitzchak bar Redifa, Omer Rav Ami mevakri mumin. Those who check the blemishes on animals, they were compensated, and we talked about whether or not a judge could be compensated, so it's only for opportunity costs we saw in yesterday's daf, and if it's mucha milsa, they would have had another job. Here, we continue on that theme, and certain people that were involved in Klei Kodesh, they were still compensated, such as people that inspected the blemishes, they were paid from the Trumas Halishka. Rav Yehuda Mishmol Talmud Chacham Hamulamed Hilchas Shchita Kohanim Hoynoitan Schar Mitrumas Halishka. Also, people that would teach the laws of Shchita to the Kohanim would also be compensated. Rav Gidol Marab Talmud Chacham Hamulamed Hilchas Kamitzel Kohanim Noitan Schar Mitrumas Halishka. So they also were paid from the Trumas Halishka, the people that taught them how to do Kamitza with the Mincha offering. Rav Yochanan Miyagi Svarim. A person who's involved in the process of editing Svarim Shirishlayim, the question is why? That doesn't really have anything to do with Karbanos. So Rashi says as follows, which is going to be question 5. Look at Rashi. Shall call Adam b'Adam sefer. Any sefer, any of the, let's say Sefer Torah, you can't just leave it around, she'enu muga, if it wasn't checked and fixed. Mishum al tashkin ba'alecha avla. As we learned, I believe, at the very beginning of this Masechta, having a shtar pasim, a shtar mana, that talks about that over there as well, that a person cannot keep such svarim around because people are going to forget that they're apostles. So we want them fixed. If Roy based in Shahayu Atzlin Badavar Mafkir Chumas Halishka Lakach, they actually were Mafkir Chumas Halishka because they know that people relax in having these svarim examined, and therefore because of that they made this exception that they could collect money for checking and fixing svarim. Rav Nachman Amar Rav Noshim Argos Poroiches. If you have women that are involved in the process of weaving the paroches in the base of Mikdash, Noto Schar and Mitrumas Halishka, they're also paid. Actually, no, I don't think they should be paid from the Trumas Halishka, but rather from Bedek Abayis, which is for the structure of the base of Mikdash, the structural needs. Because the whole concept of a curtain is similar to the building. So anything which is for like the building fund is bedek habayis. So therefore, a proiches is connected to the binyan. So instead of Trumas Halishka, you should collect from bedek habayis. Meisvei nashim horogos but proiches. If women are weaving the proiches or base garmu shel al ma'isilechem upon him, base garmu, who had the expertise, as Masechet Shkolm talked about, that they had the exact ability how to be able to make the lechem upon him, who based off tinos al masikataris, they knew how to make the incense exactly right. Kun hayanoitas scharim Trumas Halishka. We see that they get paid from the Trumas Halishka, which is a kasha. How could we just say that they get paid from the Bedek Habayis? So your answer is it depends on the type of curtain. Hasam bidibabeh. What does that mean? It's a curtain by an entranceway. Says Rashi, when it comes to these curtains that are just by the doorways, it's the use of yidi. That's just in order for modesty, people should look in. It's not connected to the actual construction of a cold sarich binyan. The curtain which separated the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim, b'mikdash sheni, bimkoim amatraxin, because in the first place in Mikdash there was something called an amatraxin, which separated the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim. Shasa Shlomo ben Rishon, he made that in the first place in Mikdash. However, they made it the base of Mikdash very, very high, and therefore they wouldn't be able to have a wall which is only an amma thick to be able to be a wall. So therefore, instead they made a matraxin. Rashi says, "We also shtei paroichais." They made 2 curtains of v'nehem amma. Can I read Masechtas Yoma? V'yosef paroichas das mikodesh bedek habayis. So basically, there was an amma between the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim. Instead of having this huge wall, they had 2 curtains, and as it talks about how the Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh Kodashim, he would like go this way and then that way. So there was two separate curtains, and there was an Alma in between, which makes sense. That's how the Kohen Gadol would walk through that. So that is not part of the binyan. That's not a structural thing. It's more of a sneas thing. So again, it's all totally on its purpose. If it's a binyan thing, then in fact you would be from binyan bedek habayis. But if not, then you get from the Shumas Alishka. So it's 13 curtains. Bemeter Sheni, Shiva Keneged Shiva Sharm, 7 opposites and 7 gates. Echad the Pischa Shel Heichem, Echad the Pischa Shel Ulam. Beis B'Dvir, as we said, there's 2 of them in the Dvir, which again separates the Kodesh Kodashim. Beis Kenegdan Ba'aliyah. Okay. Tanabon. Nashim Hami Gadlois B'Neihem L'Paycha. So you have women who which they raise their children for the sake of the Parduma, as is brought down primarily Masechtas Sukkah. It's brought them Masechtas Par. In the second paragraph of Sukkah, it says in Rashi, Uvoin Noshim Ubadois, these pregnant women would come, V'yoldu Sham, and they would give birth in that location. V'gadlu Sham B'neihem, they would raise up their children. Soich Paraduma. Lasik B'Sreifaso Milu Mei Meha. So to be involved in the burning and also the gathering of the water, which is part of the process of the Paraduma. So this is a way to ensure that this child is pure. So this is what the mothers used to do. So how do they survive? If they're so busy watching their kids. So actually what happened was there were women who were very wealthy, and they used to support these women and give them food and the like, but they didn't actually get the money from the Shumas Alishka. B'mine Rav Huna Marav, as we continue to Kuf Vav Amud Beis. Kli Sharis, when it comes to Rashi says, Shemi Sharsin Bahen B'Mizbeach Achitzain, things that are used for the outer Mizbeach, Shehu Binyan Shel Avanim, which is made out of stones. So Mahu Shiasim Mikochi Bedek Habayis. Is that taken from the Bedek Habayis fund? So it may be, because Sarach Mizbeach Ninhu, it's part of the Mizbeach, and Mikochi Bedek Habayis also, and therefore should be part of Bedek Habayis, like the structural inkeep. Otsarach carbon ninhu, it's connected to a carbon. Umatrumas alishka hayu oisan oiso. The trumas alishka is for karbanos. So the question is, because this is something which is for the sake of the mizbeach, which is karbanos are brought there. So maybe you should take from trumas alishka, or maybe not. Maybe you should take from the bedek habayis because it's like a structural thing. Al marule einasin el matrumas alishka. You do take from the trumas alishka, because it is, as we said, sarach carbon inhu. Esvei for the Gemara, it says in the pasuk in Divrei Yomim, ukikaloisam, that when it's completed, havi lifnei hamelach, it was brought before the king, v'yohayada hakayin as shar kesef, v'yasehu kalim, and they brought vessels of Beis Hashem klei sharis u'gaimer. So it's pretty pashut that this was taken from the Bedek Habayis. So Amalei de akrach ksuvi lo akrach nevi'eh. For those that read ksuvim, you don't read navi. So the pasuk says ach lo yiyasa Beis Hashem sipois, that they should not be made sipois u'gaimer, which is kalim. Ki lo oisei hamulacha yitnuhu, because for the workers it was given. So Yehochi Kashakroy Dadi. So again, it sounds, therefore, it's really something which is linked to Trumas. So we end up saying that really it's connected to Bedek Habayis. So Yehochi, because it's the construction workers. So Yehochi Kashakroy Dadi Ukasha. Kan Shigavu V'Hoisiru, Kan Shigavu V'Hosiru. In Divrei Hayomim, where we said that it's taken for Bedek Habayis, so that is in a situation where they collected Vosir and they had leftover money. However, in Sefer Malach and Beis, where it's seemingly that it should be taken from the Bedek Habayis, is Shigav of Lohosir, there's nothing extra. So the fact that you collected and you have extra, what difference does it make? It wasn't collected for this purpose. So Amarabavo, Leiv Basin Masnalehin, the famous answer that the Basin makes a condition, Im Hutzruchu Hutzruchu Vim Lav Yihu Kli Sharis. If it's needed, it's needed, and if not, it can be used for the Kli Sharis. So it was a Tanai Basin. Tanad Rabbi Shmuel Kli Sharis Boy Matrumas Alishka. So the Kli Sharis, according to this opinion, and we're going to see it's a Malchokas Tanayim, hold that it comes from Trumas Alishka. Shnemeres Shar Kesef, Ezu Kesef Sheshel Shirai. And what money has extras? Haviyerm is Trumas Alishka. So again, the Trumas Alishka is for karbanos, and then sometimes there's extra money. The Ema Shiraim Gufayu, maybe it's just leftovers. K'diyam Rava Oil Rishon Hachanam HaKesef Kesef Rishon. So it's therefore it's talking about the Trumas Alishka. Meisvei HaKatayres V'chol Karbanos Sibor Boim Trumas Alishka. The Katayres and all the Karbanos Sibor come from the Trumas Alishka. So if that's the case, their Trumas Alishka, Mizbech Hazav, Uvaina Kli Sharis Boin Mimoisin Nesachim. Actually, the Kli Sharis comes from the Moisin Nesachim, the leftover money from the libations, the Nisach HaMayim, Nisach HaYayin. That's push it what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like Moisin Nesachim is. However, if you look in Rashi explains it's actually two different opinions. Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yosef, Oimer, it's Birtzaini Midois. Shemesavkin Salosa, Shekibel Mois Ektish, Shosavik Salosa, Kol Yemos Shana, Moidin Lahetish Memida Mevuretzes, to Fufa, Vlomachuka, Makabim Moichek. So when they give to the Beis HaMikdash, the measurements cannot be just straight at the end, right at the top of the vessel. But when it comes to a solid, it has to, based on surface tension, it should extend over. So it ends up being a heaping midah. So even though you only have to give up until that amount, that extra amount, which is the heaping midah, that is the extra for the Meiser Nesachim. Alternatively, Rashi says it's talking about, quoting Rabbi Yochanan, Salasais mi arba sayin basela. Let's say you make a deal that for a saw it'll cost you one sela. Yamdim misholish, and they evaluated that one sell is actually only you can get 3 saw. Shnisakru, which means that it became more expensive. So masapik mi arba. Umekabel asapik mishosh v'huzvi amdim bedal l'sab bezuhi sheshni moisen l'sachim l'ketzim mizbeach. So basically, if the price was set at a certain price, this is how much it should be. And then, even though that's what you stipulate, almost like a futures contract, and then all of a sudden it changed. So Hektish will benefit if, let's say, the price they can make more money based on what was agreed. That's what is given. If it's more beneficial, the price change after, then that's what has to be done. So either way, the Hektish will benefit, which is called Mois in the Sachem. Mizbach Oila Halshachais, or the Lishka, all the different antechamber rooms, Vahazaros, because those are structural things. Chutz Ulchaimas Hazara, when it comes to the walls of the Azara, Bayin Mishari Halashachais. That comes from the leftovers of the lishka. Zuhi shishninu chaymas eir migdolaseha v'chol tzar ha'ir boin mishari halishka. So we see actually comes to shar lishka. So tanoi he did not. Meiser truma, when it comes to leftover of truma meha yosim. But what do you do with it? Rikuki zahab. We make sheets of gold, which is sipui lebeis kodesh kadashim. So we make these special sheets for the kodesh kadashim. Rabbi Shmuel Leimer meiser paris loketzim mizbech. The Moiser Paris, which literally just means the leftover fruits, where Rashi says, will come in Mafarish Ma'nihu, will explain what that is. That extra money is given over, is for the Klisharis. Rabbi Kiva Omer Moiser Truma L'Ketzim Mizbeach, that the leftover Truma is for the Ketzim Mizbeach, which is like a carbon ola. Ketzim Mizbeach is like almost like a dessert that the Mizbeach should always have something on it. Moiser Nesachim L'Klisharis. Rabbi Chanina Sagana Kohanim Omer Moiser Nesachim L'Ketzim Mizbeach. Moiser Truma L'Klisharis. So we have different answers how you pay off the Klisharis, if it's taken from Benekam bias is if Trumas Alishka, over here the Meiser Truma. The Zevazelu Hayim Moidim Beperus. So, but they all do not agree when it comes to fruit. So, Paris Maini, what does that mean? The Sanya Meiser Truma Mehayoisin Ba Loichin Paris Bazol. You buy fruit for inexpensive. Marchanoisin Bayokin, you sell them for a higher price. The Schar Makitzin Boyas Mizbech. The profit you buy karbanos is like an ola from the Mizbech. Bazui Shninu Meiser Paris Lachetz Mizbech. That's what it means, Meiser Paris. My Zev Zelo Hayu Moidin Beparis Dinan. Meiser Shari Lishka Mehayoisin Behen Loichin Behen Yenus Shmanim Muslasais. They should buy wine, oil, flour, v'sachar lehektish. Dear Yishmael, Rabbi Kiva Omer, ein mistakrin b'shel hektish, that we cannot get benefit. We can't have hektish make a few dollars in this way. Aflo b'shel aniyim b'shel hektish, my time low, because ananias b'makam ashirus. You don't need to buy and sell to make a few dollars. If it's supposed to be a place of wealth, you can't do things which are signs of poverty in a place which is wealthy. Maybe you encounter a poor person and they won't have it to give. So if an ani comes in need of money, we don't want it tied up, but rather liquidated for him. Okay. Misha Halach Medina Sayam, Itmar Rav Omer. That's where my test is going to end, so that's where I'm going to stop. Let's see if we have another question. This was TA 30. Pluta de Tanoi Imatrumas Alishka. Oh, Mimoiser Nesachim. Okay, fine. Question 6. Rabbi Kiva Omer Ein Mistakrin B'Shel Hektish Af Lo B'Shel Aniyim Mahatam. So the reason why we don't make money is because B'Shel Hektish Ein Aniyas B'Makam Ashiros. We don't want to act poor in a place of wealth. B'Shel Aniyim Dilma Misramil Hu Aniyah V'Leikel Misvalei. There may be someone who's poor and they won't be able to. We won't be able to, again, if an ani comes in need of money, we don't want it tied up. So rather, we want to be able to have it available to be able to assist them. Ad Kan.